We covered the work of George Hughes Hepworth in episode 44. Today we will cover his 1897 The Queerest Man Alive and Other Stories. In the title story, the narrator recounts his friendship with Dr. Rem Budd, who, however, when the stress gets too much, goes to the narrator and does some hashish. On this particular occasion, after a difficult cancer operation, Dr. Budd takes some and takes the narrator to a hall of mirrors, where he sees himself all distorted, then believes those were some people they actually met, this all just winding up to him telling the story of his time out in Colorado. A friend who owned a ranch invited Budd to come recuperate in the wilds of the South from the plague of living in New York. The neighbouring farm is the one that catches his attention, however, not so much old Peter Crum or his daughter Millie, but the farmhand Connie Carn. A singular, lonely individual, he manages to catch Millie's attention and they become affianced. After Carn beats up Brown Jack, after Carn catches him beating up a horse. Brown Jack swears to get even, but he tells people, and so Coney finds out and leaves him with a few holes in the forest. Quite why we have the subplot with Brown Jack brought up when it never factors into anything, I don't know. Then Dr. Budd finds Coney Carn in the forest, half of his body stretched out to 8 feet, after getting his foot stuck under a tree stump, while the other half of him is still 6 feet. After failing to force him back into shape, Budd stretches him and leaves him an 8-foot-tall lanky man, whom everyone calls Skelly, no one recognizes, and who doesn't remember his past. Millie is distraught at Coney's disappearance and leads a search party, then turns on Skelly as Coney's supposed murderer, and the lot of them turn on him and hunt him through the forest. But then he falls down a ravine and gets contracted into a stumpy dwarf with a massive forehead, who can't communicate and doesn't seem to understand or care even when they try to hang him. But being hung stretches him out to his proper proportions, and they cut him down in time, but whether Millie married Coney Carn we don't know, as Dr. Budd falls asleep after taking too much hashish. The story is absurd and comedically gruesome and is the only one worth reading here. Yegor's portrait has Russian nihilist nobleman Stefan Vronsky tell of how, after evading yet another exile in Siberia, he hid in a remote castle his family owned, taking the room where his cousin Yegor died and which he is said to haunt. Then at night Yegor keeps coming out of his portrait and hanging out with Stefan, before asking him to help his poor lady-love's parents pay the mortgage on their farm, and then never appearing again. A little mouse has a man fall in love with a woman but refusing to marry her because she was scared of a mouse, and then changing his mind when he sees her volunteering as a nurse during a smallpox epidemic. For Tom's sake has a father be hung for murder in place of his scoundrel of a son willingly. The flirt has a woman make a man fall in love with her out of spite, intending to send him away just to call him back. But he kills himself before she can do the latter. Clang and Clung is not good, but at least it's not as boring as the previous 3, on the grounds that it is infuriating. One of 2 brothers in Hungary moves to America and makes a fortune. Their sons John and Johann are utterly identical somehow, and Johann, who grew up in Hungary, sounds just like an American somehow. When Johann visits the family in America, he almost immediately steals a horse, making John have to pretend they are both the same person to get him out of being hung, and then impersonates John to steal money someone owes him and nearly gets John shot. And yet John still tells him of the $1,000 being sent to the post office in his name, and lets him ride ahead alone, despite nearly dying because Johann robbed him not 2 days ago. All ends well as Johann falls for John's fiancee's sister while impersonating him again, but we never do find out if he gave back the $1,000. But we do know John is an idiot,